Hey everybody, got a question for you today. Why do people get so defensive? Well, let me try to answer that. Becoming defensive is the most natural response to a verbal attack. We do it instinctively, reflexively, without even thinking about what we are defending. Why is that? Well, whatever was said somehow triggered our defense mechanisms. It activated our stress response and it mobilized our body and mind to go to battle, and this happens in a split second. Adrenaline and cortisol is released straight through our nervous system into our body. The rational thinking part of the brain becomes inhibited, kind of crushed, and the emotional part of the brain becomes more active. Well, what does this mean? It means that even though you're ready to go to war, the part of you that's smart, witty, perceptive, and calm isn't working very well. That's why I think I always think of the best comebacks minutes after the conversation's over. Man, that sucks. Man, I really should have said that. That really would have gotten them good, don't you think? And then I think, well, why do I even want to get them good? Huh? Is it that I need to hurt them as much as they hurt me, or unbalance them as much as they unbalanced me? I don't know, just to feel equal, or to feel like I've won? And if I win, if I make them feel bad, what did I even win? Have you noticed that the most defensive people also seem to be the weakest, projecting just sort of like a thin veneer of aggression that they just hope you don't challenge? Isn't it the ones who remain steadfast and resolute, curious, inquisitive, that seem the most put together? We all seem to love a good gotcha moment. YouTube thrives all over it. And it seems like a quarter of all these YouTube videos just promise that somebody's going to be triggered, smashed, humbled, destroyed, and usually the side that we're on is doing the so-called destroying. Weakness. Weakness, I tell you. It doesn't take strength to surround yourself with only things that mirror back to you what you already know and who you already are. That's one of the reasons why Jordan Peterson has become so popular. He's surprising because he has already argued the other side and knows arguments sometimes better than his opponent. He rarely seems unbalanced and seeks to have a conversation that tests the knowledge of all. What a novel thought. Hopefully, it's to sharpen the knowledge that we hold so that we can all be just a little less stupid. Even in his famous interview with Kathy Newman, he said the word gotcha after unbalancing her due to her poorly worded challenge, and regretted it later. You see, great debaters don't care about being right. They care about being better, more informed. They care about sharpening their arguments. And the most sure-footed of people almost never get defensive. Well, why? Well, let me ask you, why do you get defensive? Better question yet, when you get defensive, what on earth are you defending? Are you defending your reputation? Well, how does it look like to get dragged into a fight? Does that look good? Do you feel like I need to defend myself? Do you just feel that way? Did you know that if I wanted to control you, I would need to put you on the defensive? It's actually a great control technique. Did you also know that when I put you on the defensive, the logical thinking part of your brain is inhibited and the emotional part of your brain is activated? That's right. That feeling like you need to defend yourself means I've already put you on the back of your heels, and you're not even thinking very clearly. Yes, you defending yourself actually increases the chance that I can control you. What, are you worried about someone telling you what to do or trying to have authority over you? Do you feel like you're being scolded or parented? Did you know that actually getting defensive makes you look like a rebellious teenager? It actually confirms that you feel like you need to fight against their authority. Remember, unless there's a real, tangible threat like physical violence or standing up for someone else who isn't strong enough to have a voice, don't get defensive. Furthermore, I would only recommend defensive speech if you know how to de-escalate the situation and have been trained in, customer service or verbal judo. If you don't have a calm mind, the chance that you'll respond well is pretty close to zero. Don't believe me? Take it from some sages of the past. Here's something Mark Twain said. He said, "Never argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and beat you with experience." Epictetus said, "If they are wise, do not quarrel with them. If they are fools, ignore them." Seneca said, "If they're below you, spare them. If they're above you, spare yourself." think you're getting the point, right? Like, what's the point of fighting? What's the point of getting dragged into conflict? The OG Buddha said, avoid the fools and associate with the wise. Give respect to the respectable, and this is the highest blessing. And in the book of Proverbs, it says, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you be like him yourself. A fool's lips walk into a fight, and his mouth invites a beating. I love that one. And it's an honor for a man to keep aloof from strife, but every fool will be quarreling. You see, the real battle is with yourself. If you lose your cool, you've already lost the fight. Remember that your internal voice needs to be louder than others. No one can control you or define you. That's your job. And if there's some part of you that gives in to the demands of others just to keep the peace, you need to do business with that part of yourself. You can't earn trust, but you can become trustworthy. You can't earn respect, but you can exercise self-respect. You can't earn love, but you can be loving towards others and create decisive boundaries. You can't guarantee relationship security, but you can be a good partner and lover. Now remember this. Write this somewhere. This is one of my favorite phrases. Decisions, not drama. Conversations, not conflict. You make decisions. Get away from drama. You have meaningful conversations, not open conflict. So you might ask yourself, but thoughtful husband, what should I be doing instead of getting defensive? Well, here's one thing. How about listen and repeat back what they said? I know that sounds simple, but it gives you something to aim at. Listen to them and repeat back to them what they said. Why does this work? Well, aiming at that, having something to do rather than having anything or nothing to do will decrease your anxiety. And more importantly, a lot of times, especially in significant relationships, the person that's coming on strong or angry just feels like they need to be aggressive and dominant in order to be heard. You know, if they're getting the impression that you just never really listen to them or hear them, yeah, they're going to come in like a Mack truck. They're going to try to force the agenda. They're going to try to force the conversation on you. And what happens when you look them in the eyes and give them your full attention for a couple minutes? They actually might calm down. They actually might take that conflict and turn it into a conversation. And you don't need to come up with a witty comeback or make a snap decision. You can, and this is number 2, you can take some space. Remember what I told you about that smart part of your brain shutting down? If you're getting flooded with emotion, get some space. Let that part come back online. And you can even say something to someone like, hey, let me think about it. Or you could just walk away, or you could just check your calendar, check your to-do list. Shoot, go to the bathroom if you have to. If you're slipping out of conversation into conflict, take a break. Let me throw some fancy terminology at you. The marriage researcher Gottman calls this diffuse physiological arousal, or we just call it being flooded. And his research is pretty clear that nothing good is going to happen if you continue. Your next move should be a 20-minute break. And if the other person has a problem with it, just tell them the thoughtful husband said so. Or better yet, blame Gottman. He's a pretty smart guy. Good luck arguing with the best marriage researcher we've had in the past, 100 years. Who do you think you should listen to? Your partner, who is getting dominated by the feels? Or someone who has dedicated their entire life to researching relationships? Your call. The next 2 are adaptations from a book called Verbal Judo, and that's a book that teaches de-escalation techniques for police officers. So, surprisingly helpful in relationships. You should check it out. It's well worth your time. Here's the first phrase that I've adapted. It's called, tell me more. Tell me more. Memorize this phrase. This one is good for criticism and judgment. What if somebody says, all you want is sex? You only do what you want to do. You need to stop drinking so much. Why am I the only one who picks up around here? Look, these statements are usually designed to provoke an emotional response. They come from a place of pain or frustration. Well, what happens instead when you become curious, interested? And this is the key. Ask them to be more clear and accurate and precise and helpful with their language rather than just throwing a bunch of criticisms out there. Ask them to tell me more. Here's another one. I don't trust you. I hate that phrase. I'm going to do an entire video eventually on that one phrase because it's so frustrating. What do you say when someone says, I don't trust you? You say, tell me more. Tell me more about that. What is it that you don't trust? You see, by asking questions, you can throw the question back. What you're really saying to the person is, you either be more specific and helpful with your criticism, or shut up. If there's nothing more than that little barb they threw at you, then they're likely to be flustered and frustrated. You see, a good conversation should look like a tennis match. You serve, I return, and so forth. You serve, I return. It shouldn't look like a batting cage, where you're just getting pelted with a bunch of balls, trying to not get hit. That's not a conversation, that's an attack. Which brings me to the fourth option. Here's another phrase for you guys. That's not helpful. Memorize this phrase. That's not helpful. Chamber it like you would ammunition in your trusty sidearm. Practice saying it. Practice saying, tell me more. Practice saying, that's not helpful. And just imagine the faces of those who you might need to use them on. Now, that's not helpful is for pure insults and hate. It's for when you imagine saying, tell me more, and it just doesn't feel right to say that. Like if somebody says to you, man, you're a piece of shit. Tell me more. I wouldn't say it in that case, right? That's a time for you to throw out one of those, that's not helpful phrases. You're just like your mom. That's not helpful. How many times have I told you to blank? Look, that's not helpful. Go ahead and leave. You're just going to cheat on me anyway. All right, that's not helpful. You see, that's not helpful is a phrase that basically says, all right, I heard you, but I'm not going to respond. Or in other words, try again in a way that's more helpful. Either way, we play a good game of tennis or I'm out. I am not up for being pelted in that batting cage. Finally, and this is only for repeated violations, indifference and boundaries. That's right, indifference, meaning not caring or attempting not to care, and boundaries, setting rules for yourself. If you're in a relationship with somebody who repeatedly insults and criticizes you, especially if that person attempts to force conversations on you and tries to prevent you from disengaging, it may be time for a separation or stronger boundaries. Shoot, living with somebody who's verbally abusive, wakes you up in the middle of the night, keeps you up till 3 a.m. to talk about the relationship, that's not healthy. If you're in a relationship with somebody who has a personality disorder or is abusive, it's likely that the only relationship that will satisfy them is one where you're constantly in the batting cage, too busy dodging attacks to think clearly and maybe leave. If that's the case, time to get some help, my brothers and sisters. Being in a relationship with somebody who needs you on the defensive is not healthy. Usually, it means they see themselves as superior to you, and trying to convince them otherwise is going to be a losing game. In summary, don't get defensive. You can't defend what you can't lose. Your voice, your opinions, your time management, your ego, your reputation, your respect, no one can take that away from you. You're the captain of your own soul. Love you guys. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.